So let's start with a quick rundown of the App Builder website. This is where you'll end up when you go to appbuilder.agora.io. You can see sort of what our tool to customize your video experience looks like. Those of you who haven't seen or used the App Builder before, it's a simple no-code tool to sort of create your own custom conferencing solution or like a video call solution. You can see what all different themes are possible, what the customizations can end up looking like. We have a few templates that I'll show you in just a second. And the whole theme of today's workshop / session is around customizations. So before wasting more time, let's go ahead and go to our dashboard. Once you've created an account using the Agora dashboard, you can sign up with those same credentials and you'll end up here. So you can create a new project. You can type in a name, let's call it RTE 2022. And you can select one of these templates. I'm going to pick the video chat one for today. Since I already have a project, I'll pick this one. This is a fresh, brand new project you'll see when you create a new one. You can see what that looks like on your mobile device. There's a bunch of theme options. So you can select between a green theme, a darker blue theme, a bunch of different themes. You can change the different colors. So let's say you don't like this shade of orange, you can change that. And you have a few customization options here. Let's stick with the blue theme for now. You can go to this section to change the logo, to add your own logo at the top. We also have OAuth. So if you want to put this page behind an OAuth, then you have the actual call screen, which is my favorite part because you can change what features you want. So let's say I don't want people to be able to chat in my application. I can just toggle that off and chat is removed from the end user application that I receive. You can also see what the preview looks like on your mobile device. So coming back, let's play around with the theme. So I'll get rid of my background and upload a dark gray that I have created from before. So since my font isn't visible now, I'll change it back to a white and you can use the color picker. I'll just type in my hex code. For my secondary color, I'll probably change it to like a dark gray, so something like that. And that's sort of the customization I want. You can go ahead and click like the deploy button and it'll take you through deploying your backend to Heroku, deploying your front end to Vercel, and then you can view your app, at least the website, without having to, download the project, do any of the scaffolding that we'll do today. But since this is going to be a more customization based demo, let's download the source code. It gives me a nice zip. Let's open up a terminal. I'll go to the folder that I want to showcase this demo in, and you can create a fresh folder. I'll go ahead and open the zip that we just downloaded. I'll extract the folder that we get into my new directory and we can close these things up. But let's go into the Agora App Builder folder. As you can see, there's a few files with some config. There's a package.json, which tells us that this is a JavaScript project. There's a README. So if you want to get some instructions, it'll tell you that you need to npm install and npm start to start the CLI. Let's type out the commands. I can do npm install and npm start. So now we see like the CLI for our project. It gives you a few options. You can install to start with. You need to have Node installed in your system to sort of run the CLI and create this project. Yeah, everything seems to be good. So I can go ahead and close this window, press enter to continue. You can now build for your platform. So today we're going to use the React SDK. I can select which type of build I want. Let's go for a production build and it'll start up Webpack and do all sorts of cool things under the hood and create a React SDK that we can consume within our new React website. So while that's happening, I'm going to open up another terminal window and I'm going to go into our folder that we created. This is the one. I'll create a new project using React 16 and I have a template for it. So I'll just use my template to initialize a project. before I was able to type out that, I see that this is what the SDK folder looks like. This is the structure. This gives you a tarball, which you can install into your React project. I'm going to close this for now and hit enter and quit out of the CLI and close this window as well. Now I can scaffold a new project using my template. So this uses Vite under the hood to scaffold a project. You can use the bundler or whatever tooling that you prefer. It's going to create a folder called RTE demo inside my current directory. And it's done that. So we can go to RTE demo and you'll see a very simple React project is configured. So let's install all the dependencies it needs. It shouldn't be too many. And let's do npm run dev. It starts a local server. I'm gonna open up this URL. And we have a fresh website with React, and you see like the counter works. So I'm going to stop this server, open up VS Code, and let's start talking about code. Awesome. So we're now in VS Code with our application open. There's very few files that come with the project. It's just a simple template. I'm going to remove everything from here pretty much. Maybe we can keep the counter just to see that this is our application. And let's get rid of this as well. And this div as well. Hit save, get rid of the logo. And I will start the server here as well. And you can see we just have a static counter, nothing special. Now, the next thing we need to do is install the React SDK that we created. So I can do .. to go back up one directory. I can go into the app builder project, go into the builds directory, and something called React SDK is created for us. Inside, you'll see the tarball. And I can just install this using npm CLI. And if you go to our package.json, you will see that it's got the right package name and it references our React SDK that we just built out. We'll also have to install a few dependencies for our React project to use the SDK. So we have the React router and we have Apollo client with Nanoid. So you can copy paste this command to sort of get these dependencies as well. That got installed and we're ready to sort of start building out a project. So what I want to do next is import the React SDK into my application. So the way I can do that is just do import app builder from @appbuilder/react. That's the SDK that we installed. And this app builder default export sort of has this component called view that you can access and render. So I'll save my project and you'll immediately see that this thing gets mounted in a project and I can name my meeting. So you have like your app builder, working inside my React project. And this gives you your attendee ID, your host ID. You can start the meeting as a host. So we want to fix the styling. I'll add some styles to my index to make it all doc theme compliant. And I'll also add some styles to my div so that we're like full screen. I'll create a new meeting, call it RDE 2022. That's what comes to mind. You can copy the IDs and start the meeting. You'll see your camera preview here. I have my camera being used somewhere else, so it's not going to show up. You can add your name here and join the room, and you can sort of go to the same URL on a different tab and join this meeting. And we still have all of this running inside our React application. So that looks good. I'll go back to my code and let's start adding features and customizations into this application. So I'll create a new file called use customize. And this will be like a custom hook, which accesses the App Builder API and adds customizations to the project. What we want to do for our customization is add another button called confetti, which will spray confetti for all the users on the call whenever someone clicks that button. This will go in our bottom bar right next to the controls to like mute the local user, things like that. And the way this would work is we'll dispatch an event. So we'll tell everyone to, hey, show confetti. And once they receive an event, they'll sort of set the component state and mount like a confetti component. So let's start by installing React Confetti, which is a simple component that lets you show confetti on the screen. And what the App Builder API/SDK gives you access to is a lot of cool things that we'll take a look at. So let's first define our use customize component, and we will export default use customize. So we have that. We'll do import React from React, and we'll fix our spelling mistakes. Next thing we need is import App Builder from the SDK. We have access to that now. So let's see how this works. Let's create a use effect where we'll sort of tell the app that, hey, we want to apply this customization. So for that, we will define a simple use effect function, and we will do something called customize. Everything's TypeScript, so you can see what each like function needs. In this case, it needs an interface. So I'll define an object in which we have something called components, which has something called the video call component, inside which we will have our bottom bar. And this is just, if we hover over bottom bar, this just expects a React component. So I could essentially just return a function or like a class component, whatever you want. Let's call this bottom bar override, and then we can define that component next. So simple React component, and we can return an empty fragment, and everything's happy. Let's start with something simple and just say hello world. Maybe return that inside a p tag. Once we have this, we can go to our app.tsx and call this function like so. So it's essentially like a React hook. You can think of it as a hook which applies your customization to your view. I will save this, refresh my application, create a meeting called test. I will start the meeting. We have a pre-call screen. I can set my name and join the room. And you see that the bottom bar is overridden by our p tag, which says hello world. And we can just double check, say RT, and everything hot reloads and everything's great. So next thing we can do is define a button. Let's do that. And let's say party, and I'll just copy this emoji to make it look cool. Save, and we have our button. So one thing you'd notice is we're missing the controls because we've removed the bottom bar with our custom override. What you can also do is get components that the app builder gives you internally, and we can get the controls from here. And I can just return them in a fragment for now and render that in our tree. And now we have our functions back, or buttons back. So that's a good start. We can define an on-click function. And since this is a normal React component, you can do whatever you want here. In our case, we want to do something called show confetti, which will be a function. So we'll go ahead and define that. We also need a component state. So let's say show confetti, or let's say confetti and set confetti. and we'll use state. Let's say it's false, or let's say it's true for now, so that I can show what that looks like. Lastly, we need to check if confetti is true. We want to display our confetti component, and we can just import that directly from the library called React Confetti. You can use whatever you want, essentially just trying to showcase what this looks like. And if I save, you see confetti spraying all over your screen, which is a good sign. So I'll just default this to false for now. Great. So to start with, let's do set confetti, and on click, we will set this to true. Save, I'll click the party button and bind this to my function. Save, and if I click party, we have confetti on the screen again. Wonderful. Next thing that I want to talk about is sort of how the signaling works. So this is all great because I can display confetti on my app, but I also want to show confetti on everyone else who's in the call. And we sort of want to communicate to them that, hey, show confetti now. So the way you can do things like that, you can signal other users important information, is by something called the custom events API. So we have custom events, and this is very similar to how you would listen to events in like Node or JavaScript, quite simply put. So you should feel right at home. Let me define a use effect, and let's say that it runs on component mount. We want to do custom events dot on. Whenever someone says confetti, I will use a function which will show confetti. And now I want this button to show the confetti, but also send a message. So custom events dot send, and you can just send the same event name. So confetti, and you can send a payload. In my case, I'm not using it, so I'll just say hi so that we can see what that looks like in the console. And you have a persist level. You can read the documentation to find out exactly what each persist level does. But in our case, we'll use a persist level of 1, which means I will send the message. Anyone who's on the call will receive it. And if someone joins the call later, they will not receive this message. You can change the persist level to a higher number, like 2 or 3, to change how that message gets persisted in the channel. So let's say I send a message like my username. You want this message to be readable or accessible even after, for someone who's joined the call after that message was sent like 3 minutes ago. You can set this to persist level 2, and there's a persist level 3, which you can read more about in the documentation. I'll add semicolons because that's a good practice. And if I hit save, let's also change the show confetti to be like use timeout. So that's not spraying confetti throughout the call. Set timeout. And let's say we need a timeout of a second, and in which case you will set the confetti to true, or actually set the confetti to true, and then you'll set it to false once we're done displaying it. That looks about right. Let's hit save and try out our app. So I have a meeting ID already. I'll add that in both the tabs. Call myself something different on here. And now we have our UI with 2 users. Mute myself so that I can't hear myself talking. Click party, and hopefully we have confetti on both the screens and goes away. Awesome. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you in terms of application like feature. Let's get rid of the screen and hang up here. So I'll just quickly describe how everything works. We're using the app builder export to apply a customization. Within the customization, I have components within which I have the bottom bar, which I'm overriding with my custom React component. In the component, I've created a button along with my controls that I've also accessed from the app builder. So I don't have to like redefine something if I'm overriding it. Next, I added a function to show confetti, which basically toggles my state and renders this component that we imported from our React confetti library. Up next, we have a use effect, which listens for events. So this is like an event listener. Whenever someone sends the confetti message, we listen to that event and display confetti on the screen. And that's pretty much it. When someone clicks this button, we send that message and you have that going for you. You can add a data here. So you'll get data.payload will be your string called hi. You can also access things like who sent this message. So like the sender and what the persist level was, which can be handy. We'll get rid of that since we don't need that. And I want to show you how you could sort of customize a little bit of the UI with some like CSS. Great. So let's maybe customize what the controls look like. I will wrap this in a div and bring this up. Now I can apply like my own styling, which I can define here. One thing that's also nice to do is we should disable our button when format this a little bit. We should disable our button when confetti is actually being displayed. So you can just listen at the state, listen for the state, and if it's true, the button will be disabled, which is a nice to have. For our style, let's say we want to define the component to be a pill shaped instead of the default bottom bar that we have. So let's cite some CSS. Let's start with setting the background color to our theme, which is that. We want a border radius to round out the corners. Let's say 20 pixels, or we can just define that as a number. Next thing we need is a width. So we want to have some margin at the end. Let's say 70%. We'll also have margin auto to center everything and maybe make this like 100 to completely round out the border, and maybe add some padding. Let's say 15. See what that looks like. Create meeting, new, start, and you see that here. So this looks pretty good. You have like a pill shaped thing. You can add like styling to your button to be some other like custom length. Maybe we can just add 70% to and margin auto. That should center it out. Great. You can add a margin top to like add some padding or margin. And that's pretty much it in terms of what you can do and customize sort of the bottom layout. You can go ahead and change other things like the chat component, which is here. This is what this looks like. And you can even have fine-grained control. So you can do chat, and inside that you can change the chat bubble, and you can render your own chat bubble here. So this really opens up a lot of avenues for really truly overriding what this UI is without having to understand how this works. So you get data and you render that data inside your own custom components. And that's the beauty of React, and that's the beauty of using something like App Builder, where all of this customization is possible. And we've written about 60 lines of code, and we have like great confetti showing on our screen. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show today. And we're so excited to see what you folks will use this for. There's other cool things here that you can take a look at. We have a well-written documentation for all of these things. You have some components, you have things like the context to access values like usernames. You have all the pieces that we've put together to create this experience. And you can go to a very granular level of detail in terms of customizing all of these small things. And that's essentially it. Please give us your feedback in terms of how you're using this. If you create something cool, write to us. We'd be really happy to see all the cool things this enables to truly make your own video conferencing solution.